everyone. We've made it to the last presentation. How about that? Yeah. Thank you to all of our presenters. Everyone did a fantastic job today, and I appreciate all the great ideas. Again, I'm Matt Hagood. I'm the AVP of Instructional Technology and Innovation. With me today is Mr. Oscar Blanco, who's our Senior IT Security Engineer. And today we're going to talk to you a little bit about teaching with security in mind. We want to have this be sort of a positive thing, not like the idea of the security police, or anything like that. But we want to just give you some ideas of things to think about when you're designing your courses, course materials, things of that nature, places that you're sending your students to do work, and to make sure that you're thinking about security as you progress. Oscar, you want to take it away? Next slide, please.
Thank you, Matt. So like Matt said, my name is Oscar. I'm a security engineer here at FIU. So I want to talk a little bit about what is IT security first, and how IT security is involved also in all areas of our lives, all areas of the university, but also inside of the classroom, okay? So before we get started, I think an important thing is to define what is IT security, right? So information technology, everybody knows what IT security is, right? But then you don't, right? It's kind of the way it is, like one of those terms, right? So information technology is actually a business term. Oftentimes we think about IT, we think about engineering, right? But it was actually coined in 1958 by the Harvard Business Review as a business term, right? And the security component really started taking hold in the early 2000s, right? So IT security, in fact, is a business term that allows us to not just follow and understand technology and how data flows, right? But also protect that security, right? That data, rather, right? So, that being said, right? The next step that we have to do is safeguarding that data. So how do you safeguard that stream of data that's going through that pipeline, right? That's the security part of the IT security. And so it's, to define it briefly, right? It would be a set of controls, a set of technologies, it's a set of procedures, a set of standards that are associated to that flow of data, right? So all these standards stand beside that data flow to make sure that we understand where data is, what it's doing, who's having access to it, and all that fun stuff, right? So that data classification part of it is also part of the structure. And in reality, no one is immune to this because everything has gone digital. Everything is digital in one way or another, outside of the university, inside of the university, and particularly even inside of the classroom, right? So no one is immune, so we have to think about IT security also when we're teaching. I'm a security engineer, I'm also an educator, right? So I'm also in the classroom, and I understand, and I can see how difficult it is to teach. It's challenging enough to get the information across, to help students learn, and then on top of that, to be mindful of security. So in reality, IT security, this is a takeaway for this slide, right, is not an engineering term. I like you to think more of it as a business process and the IT security component of it as a culture, okay? So IT security is a series of technologies, but it's also enveloped in a culture. So it takes many of us to do it, okay? Next slide, please. Okay, so we've come up with some loose guidelines, right? We have this ABC, right? Awareness of where you're directing students, right? So sometimes we're in front of the classroom, we're trying to get the information across, we find useful websites, and it's difficult sometimes one doesn't realize, right, where one is directing the students, right? We have to be mindful that wherever that student goes, he's going to put information in there. Right? He's a student of the university, and under federal regulation, the student's data is protected. It's supposed to be protected, right? We're going to talk about that in a little bit, right? So as educators, we have to be mindful of free websites. There's no such thing as free lunch, right? We've heard of that. The same thing. Whenever there's a free website, you have to think, why am I getting this service? What's behind it? What are they taking from us, right? So that's something that one has to be mindful within the hectic environment of the classroom. Also, sites that require students to log in, sometimes it's a harmless login, right? That's it, just a harmless login. But, for example, if the student has to put in the FIU email address, well, that's considered FERPA in FIU, right? So if you send a student there, right, this is a place where FERPA data will be sent. Excuse me. Another thing is to be vigilant, right? Follow government and university regulations. There's a set of standards. They're published on our websites. There's a set of regulations, federal regulations, state regulations that help us keep track of this, right? So educate yourself on that. It's important to be aware of it and educate yourself on it. And also keep your devices updated. All right, make sure that the technology that you're using is a technology that is updated, right? Vulnerabilities, technical vulnerabilities that affect business processes, right, often come in the shape of unpatched devices. So make sure that your devices are patched, right? And the last one is care and responsibility for the students. This is the C, right, from the ABC. Basically, lead by example. Make sure that your student sees that you're concerned for where the data goes. That make sure that you speak to your students about your concerns, right? Make sure you mention to them the importance of privacy of their data and the privacy of your own data, okay? So lead by example and guide students to resources that you know that are secure. And Matt later is going to talk a little bit about that.
Right, so most of us in this room probably are aware of the FERPAs, the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act. So this is the federal law that requires that we protect students' data as a public institution especially. And, you know, to some of the points Oscar was just making on the last slide, you want to be thinking about, you know, if you've got a technology tool or a website or something that you want your students to use, you really got to think, like, who owns this website? You know, are they in the United States? Are they, you know, in Russia? Where are they? And, you know, and if, to Oscar's earlier point, if they ask for like what would seem a harmless login, could it lead to an identity theft situation where the student's, you know, name and their email has gotten taken. Maybe they grab something else. Maybe they're grabbing their cell phone number when they do this login, right? And all this would be a problem with FERPA, right? So we're going to talk a little bit in some of the slides coming about using, whenever you can, try to use the tools that are supported and contracted by the university.
Okay, so one of the important things, and this is at the center of security, is the password. Think about it this way. A password is like your keys. The keys to your safe, the keys to your home, the keys to your car, right? So once you compromise your keys, no matter what kind of security you have in place, none of them will be any good for anything, right? You know, we try to install other technologies like multi-factor technology, right? But you're giving away half the fight if you share passwords. So not sharing passwords is an important thing. Make sure that you tell your students that. The students understand that passwords shouldn't be shared for the following reasons, right? You cannot control what is accessed. Let's just say you tell somebody, you know, go ahead and log in for me, right, and pull this email that I need or whatever, right? Make sure if you do that, right, you have no guarantee that that's the only thing that's going to be accessed. Not only that, you won't even know what was accessed when the person comes back and tells you, I've shared the password. You don't know what those person's practices are. Maybe the computer that person is using is compromised, right? So maybe you're giving it to someone who you trust, but that doesn't mean anything. Even if you're giving it to somebody that you trust a lot, right, that person's computer can be compromised. So not sharing passwords, right, is at the center of it. You also lose privacy, okay, when you share your password, right? They can read things that you've read. They can go into your web history, okay? They can see your grades or see your classes or your syllabi, your research, if you're a professor doing research, right? So loss of privacy, right? Identity theft and unwanted changes as well. Not to mention that, how many times do we keep on OneDrive? I don't know. Somebody keeps some PII information, that's personal identifier information of yours, right, that could be compromised in the web. Nobody wants that. And you have no guarantee that that's not going to happen, okay? Blackmailing and extortion, right? Somebody accesses your email. Maybe I don't know, something happened there and you can be blackmailed for it. So make sure you tell your students this and how important this is for contract hiring as well, okay? So financial consequences also can occur because obviously you might keep your credit card information, maybe your browser, you kept the credit card information in your browser. That's a common practice, right, in Google, right? You share the password, you can very easily end up losing money from this. So never share your password. Make that an ironclad policy. Like I said, technology, IT, security is about technology, but we can't do it without you guys. We can't do it without the people that are using the tools. At the end of the day, it is a culture, right?
If I could jump in for a quick second, and I think just to kind of reframe too, and Oscar's said this a couple of times, I think the idea is to put these ideas out, and when you're talking to your students, these are important things that they need to understand, because, and I'm just going to touch real quick on the contract cheating thing. We do know that does happen, where students will try to hire someone to come into their Canvas course and take an exam for them, right? But in order to do that, they're going to have to share their password in order to do that. And guess what? That person has now done something that the person that they hired can hold over them for the rest of their life. Okay, and I don't mean to be dark, but it's a pretty serious thing. It's a very serious thing, and potentially, in some cases, could be illegal, right? I just wanted to touch on that point. It's an important thing, I think, because there's some situations where people don't even know that things like this can happen, right? But it does happen. It's rare, but it does happen. This is me. Yeah. So the technology evaluation group, the crowd goes wild, right? Yeah. Yeah. Smattering of applause. So those of you who know the technology evaluation group, so I'm actually the co-chairman with Mr. Carlos Verona sitting up front of this group, and what we do is really try to act as a resource for the university to evaluate new technologies as they come in. And what we're doing is trying to check out these companies, check out their product, and make sure that they're really safe for consumption by our FIU students, our faculty, and our staff, and our researchers as well. So we hit on these 4 big points here. IT security is really where we started this committee, and then we pretty quickly adopted digital accessibility. And that has become, and I want to talk for a minute about digital accessibility because it really has become almost as big a deal as IT security. It's really critical. And FIU does have an accessibility policy, digital accessibility policy. If you just Google it, you can read it. And it's based on what's called the WCAG standard. The WCAG 2.0 AA is our standard right now, and it's probably going to go up from what I'm being told by the accessibility folks. And the federal government has gotten pretty serious on this issue with public institutions. This is something we need to be paying attention to, and obviously the faculty are our front line with this, and we want to make sure that our students, all of our students, can have access to the material. So we also look at compliance. Dulce's here somewhere. There she is. Yeah, she's on the committee. And we also look for duplication. So if someone proposes a tool that does something that we already have at FIU, we try to present like, hey, we already have this over here. So let's try to not waste resources by buying the same tool twice, right? So you can check out our website, and you can submit if you have something that use it. You can use it as a resource too. Even if you're considering buying the software, go ahead and submit a proposal for us to evaluate it, and we'll take a look at it. We'll give you feedback, and we'll let you know if it's up to FIU standard. And we do have. We're starting to develop a little bit of a reputation, actually, in higher ed as being a university that has tough standards for IT security and accessibility in particular, and of course, of compliance as well. So use us as a resource. We try to be a positive thing. We do run into a lot of, things and with a lot of these vendors where we have to work with them and be like, hey, we're going to have you correct this if you want to do business at FIU because we're serious about this stuff. Okay, and I'll give you one quick example. We had a vendor that had a pretty messy IT security form that they submitted, right? We worked with them. Oscar gave them specific points that needed to be improved, and this is a nationwide company. They changed their entire business practice for their work from home policy based on the feedback that they got from the technology evaluation group here at FIU, and they actually ended up thanking us because they had a real blind spot, and it was a very serious issue. They had people working from home, and they were essentially accessing students' data without any use of a VPN or what else, Oscar?
VPN, the machines were not managed systems. They're working from their home devices. They didn't have an AV or a standardized AV. I mean, you name it, right?
So, right.
Before we go to that one, Matt, let me just go back to, because you talked about
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
I think we have some time. We can hold these guys a little longer.
Yeah.
The IT security part of it. So for the people, Matt explained the accessibility part. So the IT security component, why is the IT security important for software, right? The IT security component, right? And the most important thing that we look at when we deal with vendors is back in the day when all data, everything lived in our data centers, right? The people that we hired and the controls and systems and technology that we use to safeguard our customers' data was in our data center. It was under our control, our purview, right? But now, as more and more, technology has expanded, the throughputs are larger, right? Everything moves faster and quicker, right? We can hire vendors who use cloud environments, right? In this case, the data, our students' data, our customer data, right, goes out of our purview and it leaves FIU and it's given to a vendor, right? Part of IT security, part of the components that I mentioned before, the controls and the technologies and the procedures, part of that is measuring risk. So what we do is we like to measure risk. How risky is any particular technology, right? Once we give the data to a vendor, if we don't know how that vendor treats that data, we can't measure that risk. We can't measure what you can't see, right? So part of this evaluation, this is why it's so important, is we ask the vendor a series of questions in a standardized questionnaire, okay? And the vendor fills it out, gives it back to us, and with that, it gives us the ability to know exactly what they're doing with the data in different scenarios, depending on what their business model is. And that allows us to measure the risk and say, is it within our risk appetite or not? That's the point of the IT security component part in TEG. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No, that's great. Okay, next slide, please. Right, so I just want to touch, we're almost to the end here, so hang in there. A couple more slides, and then we'll do our Panther Tech prizes, so just hang in there. So I wanted to talk real quick about the idea of using tools that are supported by the institution and not supported, right? So supported, that means on some level, the tool has been evaluated, whether at the minimum, at least from a contractual level, on a legal level, right? Or it's been through TEG. TEG is fairly new. We have not reviewed every single technology at FIU. That would, literally take us, as Carlos said, we'd have to boil the ocean. So supported, right? Focus on, you can go to Ask IT and you can look at the list of the tools that we have that are supported by the institution. We have a lot of great tools at FIU for you to use as faculty. And obviously not supported, it's not been reviewed by any, on any level, right? Not legal, not IT security, not accessibility, nothing has happened. So we want to try to either avoid those, or if you really like the tool, put it through TEG and let us have a look at it and see. So next slide, please. I'm going to show some quick examples. WhatsApp, pretty popular. Everyone uses it, but it's not contracted with FIU. We don't know what's happening with that data, right? We know it's a well-known company, of course. Google, unfortunately, we're not contracted with them anymore, you know, for a bunch of reasons. I know GPT-0 has come up. It looks like Canvas is going to be doing a deal with them, so that could become more moving over into the right column. So just, you know, keep in mind, is this a supported tool? Is it not a supported tool? It should be pretty obvious, right? And you can go to Ask IT and look at the list of tools that we have. All right, next slide. All right, any questions? It's my daughter calling me here. Few minutes, we'll call her back. All right, any questions on IT security? No, we're going to get right to the Panther Tech giveaways. Yeah, I guess so. All right, let's have some music. Let's get ready, and we'll wrap this show up.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Oscar.
That's all, folks. On behalf of the Division of IT and the FIU EdIT team, thank you for joining us.